I wonder if we're simply poisoned by plants in a low animal fat diet, and that's the single leading cause of all disease.
Even plants are processed right now. They're full of glyphosates and all this stuff. I do recognize that there's plenty of people that will develop kidney stones and all sorts of other problems related to eating some plants, but I don't think that necessarily applies to everybody. We have some patients that have been able to reverse their arterial plaque, and they're on a plant-based diet, and that worked for us, for them. And I think it's just because of the low carb. But we have seen people that have been doing a very strict low carb plant-based, and it's not up until they do carnivore that they start seeing improvement. So we have seen both cases. So, well, my name is Jesus Vega. I'm a physician in Mexico. I think one of the major points that I would like to talk today, if you're okay with that, Dr. Kiltz, it's about young people dealing with metabolic disease and prediabetes, like it's my case. Just because I've been working with Dr. Ford Brewer for a couple of years now, and I've come to learn how many people, boomer generation, X generation, are dealing with this problem, and they realize up until when they're on their 40s and 50s and 60s, and then it's a complete 180 turn, trying to change your life and getting to a more metabolic healthy state and avoiding a heart attack, a stroke, or any of those other consequences of a poor lifestyle. But then you turn out to see the youngest, and we are on the same path. We are going there. We just don't realize. We just have other set of priorities, and it's just so frustrating to see young people like me who are sitting on the couch, collecting body fat, collecting arterial plaque on their hearts, and they don't even realize how big of a deal that is. And I think that's one of the major points that has become kind of my life goal at this point. As many MDs on the ketogenic, carnivore, metabolic health space, I went to medical school, and I learned what it was taught back in the day was the right way of eating, which is the low fat diet, Mediterranean DASH diet, which that's what you will hear from our nutrition teachers. I was lucky enough to have 6 months of classes on nutrition and have a full year of biochemistry. But you don't connect the dots back in there. It's like, oh yeah, I need to learn this because I need to pass my tests. That's it. And then you go out and start perpetuating the advice that you learn from your teachers, and then reality hits at some point. Um, I I share with Dr. Brewer, who will be with you later, kind of a very similar journey to my surprise. He is a preventive medicine doctor, went to Johns Hopkins, taught preventive medicine, got a training on occupational medicine as well, and he worked as an ER doc for a while, watching heart attacks and strokes, and then realizing we need to stop this. There's something we're doing wrong as a medical community that's not helping people to understand how to avoid these cardiac events and strokes. My journey was almost the same. Before going to medical school, I became an EMT, and I worked on the EMT for the Red Cross in Mexico for a couple of years, and I just saw hundreds of cases, not just car crashes and all that stuff, but a lot of people having heart attacks and having strokes, calling the ambulance, and you're there with them during the suffering at their house when they don't know what to do, and they're putting all your hopes in you, trying to reverse something that has been building up for years. I will go to medical school. I got also training on preventive and occupational medicine, and it was not up until I met Dr. Brewer about 3 years ago that I started changing my life. I'm 34 years old now. I was 31 back there. And even though with all my training, I was still doing a lot of unhealthy things. Um, it was so sad for me to realize that I had to meet uh, one of the best prevention doctors out there to understand and to see this message. I wasn't a YouTube guy. I'm on YouTube now all the time just because I work with Dr. Brewer's channel as well. But it was so sad to understand that. And I thought, Me as a young doctor, I need to meet one of the best persons out there to understand the message about how to get metabolically healthy. What's going to happen to thousands of people out there that don't know about this message and are still deep into the carbohydrate addiction, eating processed foods, eating processed carbs, collecting fat? Most of them are going to have heart attacks, and that's just the statistics right now. Most people are having heart attacks, both men and women, and it starts on your youth.
What any particular things that you were suffering personally, or things you were seeing in your patients? And I'm sure as an EMT, you saw many a suffering and even early deaths. And in general, in your training and in my training, we didn't really have a good handle at why some people got disease and other people did not.
Yeah, and you will go back to genetics, and that was the answer back in there. And I think probably it's still the answer for a lot of training programs. That's what they will tell you. Like Latin America people, Mexican people like me, we do know that just genetically we have a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, pre-diabetes. But I find hard to believe that it's just the way you're born. We can discuss epigenetics on how the environment helps you switch and turn on, turn off certain genetic patterns and make you change over the decades and with the next generation that comes in. And I think that's what's happening. If we have a higher risk, it's because on the last decades we have been building up until that point where our genetics are predisposing us a little bit more into that. um, why some people have it and some people don't, to me personally, this is still a conundrum. I can tell you the experience with my wife. For example, my wife is 33 years old. She's turning 33 this year. We can test, we have done this before, we can test the same carbohydrate rich foods or drinks, let's say in a hamburger or a lemonade or whatever. My blood sugar will go to up to 200. Hers won't. I always tell her, well, your glucose might not go that high. We don't know how your insulin is behaving right now because we don't have a live monitor to measure your insulin. But I know that my glucose is going to be 200. That doesn't say that you're healthier than me. That only says I'm deeper on the process than you are right now. So even if you might think, oh, I'm healthy, I'm thin, I'm young, I'm off the hook, I'm not so sure. I have never been obese, never. But I was overweight. Like 3 years ago, just 3 years ago, I was overweight. My BMI somewhere closer to 27, 26, 27. I didn't look like being very overweight. And compared to most of the people over here in Mexico, I was thin. Most people have their belly out there. I wasn't. Uh, but it wasn't until I started really testing, I got off my denial hook because I was on denial for a year. I was like, I know I have a problem. I'm gonna manage it. I don't want to see the numbers. I just keep dragging my feet and doing the tests that I knew I need to do up until I did them. Yes, surprise, surprise. I had pre-diabetes. I didn't have like especially high triglycerides or a lot of cholesterol problems per se, other than low HDL. Um, but I had an insulin somewhere closer to 11, 12. So I was like, yeah, even the lab says, oh, fasting insulin on 11, that's normal, right? Because most people have that. Of course not. It was just too high. Then I was like, yeah, I need to stop being a hypocrite. I need to stop saying, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then I came back home and I can't resist eating some cookies, you know? So I said, yeah, you need to change your lifestyle. Back in those moments, I did a more strict keto diet for about 2 to 3 months, and I ended that process with a 7-day fasting, 4-day water fasting, 3-day sardine fasting. Um, at the end of that whole process, I ended up losing about 30 pounds, and my insulin went to somewhere closer to 11 to 4. So it was like a complete metabolic reset, you know? And of course, my family was like, They were not telling that to me. They were bugging my wife and telling him, what's going on with him? He looks sick. He's doing something that should not be doing. He's gonna end up in the hospital. When I was feeling the best I ever felt in my life, I wasn't tired. I used to be tired, bloated. My gut wasn't working properly. Uh, and after doing that, I even stopped getting hungry. And I was like, really? People stop getting hungry? Up until today, and it's been a couple of years since I did that. I don't even remember what's like to feel hungry, and
And
it's just a blessing. It gives you control.
what is your primary diet today? And maybe just what was your primary diet yesterday in the past, and what did you switch over to?
I'm gonna give you an example of how bad I was back in the day. When I was in med school, and I was in med school, so you can realize. I grew up on a family that was very addicted to carbohydrates. There was obesity that was normal. Uh, I remember I had an aunt that she was like against soda, and she always came by to the house with her water. Everybody gave her a bad look because everybody was drinking Coke. That was normal. Drinking Coke. My job was to go to the store to get the Coke and get the tortillas when I was a kid. That was the standard food, or food patterns, or a standard diet. When I went to med school, I got into med school with a full scholarship. I wasn't I didn't have like a lot of means even to study. I was lucky enough to meet the right people and get a scholarship. So I had a very tight budget, and what I could afford back in the day, unbeknownst to me that probably you could eat healthier with a low budget, was a bowl of cereal and a pack of cookies and full fat meal. And that was my breakfast. 6 a.m. before going to med school, big bowl of cereal. I just to add to the fire some cookies on it and milk. A lot of carbohydrates. Of course, I had energy, but I was bombing like around 2 p.m., 3 p.m. So I had to go eat again. And I usually just eat something like my mom prepared for me, which it was mostly healthy, but again, tortillas and stuff like that. A few years ago, I stopped doing that, but I still was eating a lot of carbohydrates. I think for any Mexican Latin person out there, the one thing that helped me the most, and I can bet my savings on that, was just quitting the tortillas. Just because in Mexico that's so ingrained in our culture, and you just tortillas. You don't use spoons or forks. You use tortillas. Just stopping doing that was the major step forward for me. Just eliminating one item,
Wow.
but it was a lot of carbohydrates back in the day.
And what is your diet today?
Right now, I'm more on a keto diet. I'd like to call it. I mean, this is not my phrase or anything. I just like to call it a meat-based diet, just because I know I'm not a full carnivore. I will eat some leafy green vegetables here and there. I will eat some avocado. I will pour some olive oil on my stuff. But it's mostly meat. My personal favorite is liver, so I try to eat liver as much as possible. I like to eat organs. I like to eat fish as much as possible, which is a little bit harder to get some good quality fish over here, but I try to incorporate that. And I do eat some leafy green vegetables and avocado. That's kind of it's a boring diet if you want to call it, but it's a very savory diet. Every day I have my omelette and my black coffee. That's my breakfast. And I just try to keep it as simple as that. I do have. I think I'm still on that journey of learning, and I think one thing that I haven't been able to leave, because I'm a carb addict, and I think once a carb addict, you're always a carb addict, but you just learn to manage it. I understand why you should manage it. I graduated from eating these popcorns with a bunch of stuff on it that you get on the movies and chips and all that stuff, to just plain simple popcorn. And that's still something that I would eat maybe once or twice a week. Uh, it's a hard journey to do. It's difficult to give up the cravings, because I know if I fail once, well, not fail, but if I fall into the temptation of eating a piece of cake or whatever, I know I'm gonna be craving for that stuff like the next day.
Yeah.
I just know it. I feel it on my body.
It is such a hard journey. And I say, if you're going to do popcorn, lots of butter and salt, and small amounts infrequently, that, if you're going to be there. And I think keto helps a lot of people. I think carnivore is just a game changer. If you're really sick and you want to just do the ultimate elimination and go fatty meat, salt, and water, it's one of the biggest things I found. Tell me a little bit about your connection to Dr. Brewer and how that has helped you on your journey and your podcasting and YouTube and sharing this message to more people. Can you maybe comment about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always say Dr. Brewer is my sensei. He's 67 years old. He doesn't look like that. He in camera doesn't look that impressive, but when you meet him in person, man, I have never met any 67-year-old person healthier than him.
Wow.
And he leads by the example. That's the part that I like the most. He's not a hypocrite like I was a few years ago. He will say, okay, you should do low carb diet, doing this and doing this type of exercise and doing some exercise snacks. We have been in a couple of conferences together. We have even sleep on the same room. And he's like, oh, time for my exercise snacks. And he will go next to the bed and do some push-ups and do some pull-ups and do some squats and do some stuff like that. And he pulls you with that example. So that's something that I have come to learn from him, and I do as he does. We always tease, and you can see that on the channel. We have a podcast every Thursday. I tease him a lot because I'm like, I follow the evidence. I follow what the scientific evidence says. He will come up with something like, it's more like an expert opinion. I will always challenge him until I see it on a paper. I won't believe you. And that's kind of an inner joke between him and I. And most times I come to learn that experience is just a magical thing, because he ends up being right. And I come back and I like, remember that thing you told me that's just like what you have seen? Turns out there's evidence that supports that. And my young person and my I really appreciate that, because it's what young doctors don't have. Young doctors, we can be very arrogant, and we can be know it all and just saying everybody's wrong, we're right. I've read thousands of papers. And turns out when you try to match that into reality and what people are living through and all the factors that are involved, it's humbling to realize, you know what, I was wrong, but I've come to learn that I was wrong. And now I can change the way I'm working in my personal life and the things that I tell to my patients, because that's the other thing. The patients we have on the practice with Dr. Brewer, I'm a health coach with him because I'm not licensed in the US. So I'm just a health coach. I get a certification for that. But the patients that I have in Mexico are two completely opposite sides of the current situation of metabolic health. People that come to see Dr. Brewer are usually people who watch channels like yours. They already did a lot of the changes they need to do. They're not necessarily on this carb addiction cycle. They are thin, they're strong, they're making exercise. They're concerned about having cardiovascular plaque, and they just want to know what else they can do to improve and optimize their health. The patients that I see in Mexico, they don't even realize they are on a deep hole. They are feeling tired. They're not sleeping enough. They're gaining weight. They have arthritis, all sorts of autoimmune diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure. And they have not yet connected the dots that their lifestyle is what's keeping them sick. So it's a complete different perspective. But I've come to learn a lot from Dr. Brewer on how to manage both situations.
Hey, if you're eating animal-based, you know how hard it is to find something real when you're on the go. That's why I like the Carnivore bar. It's made with just meat, fat, salt, and sometimes a little honey. No seed oils, no sugar, no preservatives. It's shelf-stable, travel-ready, and packs 400 calories of real nourishment. Think of it like modern-day pemmican, a survival food, reimagined with high-quality, regeneratively raised beef. Whether you're flying, hiking, road tripping, or just busy between meals, this bar helps you stay fueled until your next steak. It's simple. It's real. And it actually supports how humans are meant to eat. Meat, my food.
You're in occupational and preventive medicine?
Yeah, mostly preventive medicine. I used to work in companies. My training was mostly preventing diseases, and we have a full training on chronic diseases because you go to any company, number one problem they have chronic diseases. Everybody has high blood pressure. Everybody has everybody has obesity. Everybody has prediabetes. Even if they know it or not. And then we have the other side of preventing occupational diseases and injuries.
What are the top 5 conditions you're seeing in your practice?
Oh, by far, heart disease. That's number one because that's what people come to see us for. Heart disease. They had a calcium score that's positive. They went to the doctor. They had a positive stress test, and they were scared to death. They were told that they need a preventive stent or even a bypass. So heart disease is number one. Then we see a lot of diabetes, pre-diabetes. We see a lot of high blood pressure. I think that's the third one. And of course, cholesterol issues. They come here with a high LDL, high ApoB, low HDL, high total cholesterol, and they've been told that they need to start on a high dose statin to fix that. And we're like, okay, let's talk about other things that we can do before we talk statins. And of course, obesity, which is pretty much linked. So if you can put everything on one disease, will be metabolic disease. That's what we see every day.
I wonder if we're simply poisoned by plants in a low animal fat diet, and that's the single leading cause of all disease.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I do think that the way that even plants are processed right now, they're full of glyphosates and all this stuff. But I go back to what is your personal kind of a risk associated with that. I'll give you an example on oxalates, right? And Dr. Brewer and I usually we don't agree with everybody, and sometimes we don't even agree with each other. But
That's good. It's good for all of us.
In the oxalates conversation, I do recognize that there's plenty of people that will develop kidney stones and all sorts of other problems related to eating some plants. But I don't think that necessarily applies to everybody. I do think that there's some benefits, some certain types of plants, especially just leafy green vegetables and maybe avocados and maybe some low carbohydrate fruits, just because some vitamins, minerals, and stuff like that. Do I think that should be the base of the dietary recommendations? That's the thing where I don't agree with. And one thing from plants that you can get a lot of benefit from is fiber. But I do agree that if your diet is basically carnivore, maybe you don't need fiber. I think you need fiber if you're eating some types of carbs, even if it's a small amount. So that's where I am. I'm still on this journey trying to learn what's probably the best. And I try to kind of tiptoe into the things that I have seen both in the evidence and with our patients. We have some patients that have been able to reverse their arterial plaque, and they're on a plant-based diet, and that worked for us for them. And I think it's just because of the low carb. But we have seen people that have been doing a very strict low carb plant-based, and it's not up until they do carnivore that they start seeing improvement. So we have seen both cases.
Do you think there's a propensity of more value of one over the other? And I bring this up because ultimately, as docs, we open people up, we look inside and look under a microscope. You and I can't tell who's who because physiologically we're really the same. My daughter would die to an avocado banana. Some people are allergic to peanuts and other people aren't.
Yeah.
But could cancer be an allergy? It's
That
an
I don't
inflammatory condition.
That I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not the. I think I will accept my limitations and say I will have to go back to school on cancer a little bit more. The basic things that I can tell you about cancer because I'm nowhere near an expert on cancer, is that I will go back more to the standard American diet, the trans fats, the high amounts of processed carbohydrates, the inflammatory components of food that end up leading to that. And I also, if I remember correctly from my classes, even though cancer itself is kind of the same pathology or same disease, every cancer in different organs behaves a little bit differently. And the pathophysiology can be slightly different and have different multiple factors. So I do think that if you relate that to allergies and say, well, maybe we have an exacerbated immune system that is attacking itself. Yes, I agree 100% with that. But yeah, that's as far as I can go. I would like to give more information, but I'll have to go back to school.
Well, I think, and I know you sound very similar to me. I'm 69, and you sound similar to me at your age and your time of experience and pre-train, post-training, and things like that. And Dr. Brewer sounds like me also. Is that over time you experience things and you realize, you know what, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe we're all wrong. And that's our biggest problem. What is one of the biggest frustrations and solutions you see in the modern healthcare system?
Can you rephrase that again? Like,
Well,
you practice
you practice standard medicine like I practiced and still practice some standard medicine. What do you think is one of the biggest flaws there, and what do you think is one of the best solutions that we can help make the change for our communities?
Oh, I understand that now. I sometimes more like a pessimistic person. I should be more optimistic. I will start with that. I'm not sure specifically about the whole state on the U.S., but I'm going to give you the example of Mexico. And I don't think it's so far off. If there's one thing that it's going to empower people to make smarter decisions and take good care of their health, because at the end, you cannot leave your health responsibility and the progress of your own health journey on the government hands. You cannot let the government decide what's healthy for you. You need to find that yourself. Because I agree, we have the same physiology, and I also recognize that not everybody is the same. So that's why everybody needs to find their own solutions. Education is first. Learning all this stuff. What is a carbohydrate? What's a protein? What's a fat? What type of exercise? How to track my progress? How to know if I'm doing better or not? How to avoid diseases? Which diseases I should avoid, etc., etc. And that's all information and education people need to have. And no one can make somebody learn something that they don't want to learn. So motivation and education, those are basic components. When you go to the Mexico situation, where over 70% of people are living on poverty, some level of poverty, where their concerns are to make it at the end of the day, earning living minimum wage, eating what they can afford, and not having enough time. Would you see jobs where they're working 12 hours a day and they just go back to their house to sleep? And that's the reality for most people. And the government over here, they have some control over the population by keeping them poor and uneducated. So asking them to know about this stuff, it's a challenge. They come to understand about this until they have their first cardiac event, until they already developed pre-diabetes or diabetes, until they already develop kidney disease, or they are on dialysis now, or they lose a finger from their foot because of a neuropathy or some wound that got infected. So I think that's the biggest challenge. If we want to make a change, it starts by word. Well, what do you call that? People telling each other. Just like we make viral stupid videos on the internet, we need to start figuring out a way to make the message as simple as possible and as viral as possible. Because people are going to learn from TikTok and YouTube and Facebook. They're not going to learn from books.
Stupid, simple knowledge that's passed along to every brother and sister of the world, that they have access, and this device gives them that.
Mhm.
And everyone has the right to hear this and know this, and then they decide, whether they're ready for it or not. Or what usually happens to most of us is we suffer enough, and then something shows up, and they do it, and it's like, wow, why didn't I do that earlier? But like anything else, it all happens when it's supposed to. But I think you're right. This is the same in the rest of the world. All of the world is similar to that, right? We're but YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, X, Instagram, whatever the device is, knowledge is now passed on, and you don't have to go to medical school to gain the knowledge. It's all accessible to everyone right now.
And
That's
you're
the
not
beauty.
going to get it on medical school. That's the saddest part. Some programs are starting to talk about keto diet and carnivore diet, but the problem is, what's the approach? If you go to TikTok and you create a short that becomes viral that says, just eat meat, that's the message. Fifth grade level, just eat meat, which is a healthy message. Then you're gonna have a backlash of people saying, "Oh, that's unhealthy. That's gonna cause heart disease." Why are not you saying that from the standard for the standard American diet? Why are you not pushing a message where you say, "Oh, that bowl of cereal you're eating in the morning, that's clogging your arteries"? They're not saying that. They will just start jumping up until somebody says, "Eat meat." Like, if it's such an outlandish thing to say,
A-
it's so sad, actually.
And we're seeing so many young people doing this, and they're healing diseases. They're physically looking healthier. And I think the magic here is that we're all sharing a story, because you're able to touch more people than you can ever do in the day in your office.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's educating the masses, and not just going to person by person. We do offer the person by person services, but we're still working on providing this message for most people. Dr. Brewer's channel, we have been fortunate enough to make it grow to where it is, and we're trying to grow even larger. And one of the things that we changed that make it such a huge difference is, we used to be a very in-depth channel, posting articles, reading the statistics. Oh, see this line over here. This says this is statistically significant. Nobody watches that stuff. Only the geeks watch that stuff. And we have a lot of geeks, which we love. But most people are not geeks. Most people are your person who has standard job, 9 to 5. They just want to be healthy, but they don't want to become nutrition experts. They just want to know what to eat and how to exercise. That's the only thing they want to know. And if we're able to change our message to something simple they can apply and they can understand in a few minutes, because attention span has been decreasing over the years with the short videos. So you need to make a message that is simple, concise, and catchy and viral. And
Right.
that's an art itself. I didn't I wasn't taught that on med school, and I'm so frustrated because then to be a good communicator, you need to learn how to simplify stuff. And Dr. Brewer and I are not the best on that just yet. We're working on a Spanish channel, probably in about 2-3 months. And my idea for that channel is to be more on the humor side and do some sketches and do some stuff. But instead of asking people to see dumb stuff like people falling or kitty cat videos, which might release some endorphins, and probably that's a good thing. We're trying to make something fun but entertaining and educating, so people can also say, okay, I'm watching this guy because it's entertaining, but I'm following some of his advice and he's actually changing my life. That would be the ultimate goal.
And ultimately, entertainment, whether you read it, listen to it, watch it in some short, medium, or long format, is we're all looking for uh, information, but entertainment, and our
Yeah.
brains are always moving, and to give that short bite, and then, but it's, I say we're visual and auditory, but
Hmm.
we need to see. That's more powerful. In actuality, reading is not normal to the human body or brain. It's not
No.
normal. The books, the only thing we really learned for our initial 3.5 million years of evolution through observation, through listening, but then through action and doing something.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of what you and Dr. Brewer are doing is giving people actionable, um, uh, inspiring content, because that's where medicine is today. I mean, if you think about it, why did we all start smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol? It's because the marketing was so good, and it's so easy, and really food marketing is so good.
Yeah.
And now we're getting better meat cooking marketing than we've ever had before. Cooking a ribeye.
This is the moment.
Yeah. This is the moment. What do you see in your evolution as a doctor in your practice? Do you have any sort of goals, dreams, or inspiration?
I can tell you it has changed, because I remember when I was on med school, one of my first rotations was with a cardiologist, a personal friend of somebody who I met. And so when I wasn't on classes or on vacations, I used to go to this cardiologist practice, and I started to learn a lot about medications for lowering cholesterol and how to do EKGs and do stress tests. So I learned a lot about that. I became an expert on those things on my first 2 years of med school. Then I got pulled more into the ER component. I had a quick look at anesthesiology, which I liked a little bit as well. But I think it was up until I lived a very poor lifestyle myself that I decided to make a change. I think US, Mexico, and most medical trainings are the same. We are burned out because of the amount of work that we do. We are underpaid when you're an intern or resident on your training programs. There was a moment where I had basically 3 jobs. We do what we call a 1 year of social service on the last year of medical school, where they send you to a faraway community to serve people. So I wasn't so far away from the city, so I used to do an 8 to 4 shift there. Then I went to a private hospital from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., and I used to do night shifts on that same hospital 3 days a week. So sometimes I will end up working 36 to 40 hours. And that was after the internship, where you do 3 or 4 days, you basically live on the hospital. So I was burned out. I think that was my worst point in my life. I gained weight. I got as obese I could get at that age. Not necessarily obese, but I was borderline, still overweight, but I could feel it, you know? I used to snore a lot. I used to snore, but like nobody could sleep next to me because of my snoring. And I said to myself, if I keep on this trend, this is not gonna end good for me. So I looked for a program. This is so, I'm opening here. This is so sad to say, but I looked for a training program on my residency program that will help me to take care of myself. No internal medicine, no surgery program, no emergency program is gonna let you be healthy, because you have to do a lot of night shifts, stay a lot of hours in the hospital, eat on a not having time to exercise or eat as you should. So I went to preventive medicine, where we didn't have any night shifts. We worked a lot, but we didn't have any night shifts, and we have a lot of time to take care of ourselves, because you lead by the example. And I think that's one of the beautiful things of my program. They were always telling us, you lead your patients with example. If you want to teach health, you gotta be healthy. Your patients needs to see you healthy. And I think that was kind of the ultimate goal. Like, I started changing my lifestyle, even if I was making mistakes back in the day, changing my lifestyle, and then to help others change their lifestyle. And now my goal is similar to Dr. Brewer, but for a younger audience. I would like to try to make young people understand on an early age how important it is to change their lifestyle if they want to avoid a heart attack and if they want to live longer.
What's your inspiration advice to those that are thinking about going to medical school and standard medicine?
It's so sad because my first reaction it would be don't do it. That would be my first reaction. But my second reaction, because we need doctors, we need nurses, we need it's frontline front care workers that I respect a lot. I have a huge respect and admiration for people who are working on the hospital right now, because they're saving lives. Even if they have some differences in regards to preventive medicine, most doctors don't go to preventive medicine. I think in Mexico the situation is similar to the U.S. Only about 1% of doctors go to preventive medicine. I'm not talking family medicine. Family medicine should be preventive medicine, but it's not the same. Family medicine, they're just too deep into managing people with problems. It's hard for them to make real prevention. Cardiologists don't do prevention. Endocrinologists, I don't think they do prevention because they're seeing the severe cases. Not because they probably could do it. They're just seeing the severe cases, so they cannot allocate some time to preventive medicine. So if you're a doctor, want to go to medical school, want to do all the cool stuff like doing surgery and all that stuff, that's fantastic. But I will start by saying, just put yourself first. Take care of yourself first, lead by the example, and you will realize how much productive you can be when you're healthy.
I think lead by example is exactly it. And we're in such tough training grounds. Just to get to medical school is a struggle. Very few people actually get accepted that want to be in the healthcare system. I think more and more people can be in the healthcare system as they're learning to be a coach. And I think coaching and blogging and sharing these stories is going to grow even more and more. Are there any questions I may not have asked you that you wanted to make sure got shared today?
I would like just to add one more thing on how to start this journey. Like, if we are lucky enough for, I don't know what your audience is. I'm guessing your audience is usually older people because they're wiser and smarter.
All people.
Old people.
All people.
So
but keep on going.
If some of your old people audience, we share the same audience, I think. Most of our Dr. Brewer's audience is people, boomers who are under 50, 60 years old. But I would like always to tell them, if you have children, kids, sons, daughters, granddaughters, grandchildren, spread the message to them. Try to make them understand that they could be doing something different. Not in a confrontational way, because, when somebody tells you you're wrong, the immediate reaction is to push away. How dare you tell me I'm wrong? It's not like that. Just trying to make them understand, hey, I'm on my 60s. I'm doing these lifestyle changes. I would like you to consider doing these lifestyle changes yourself, because I know that's going to help you in the future. Young people don't see it unless they're starting to feel something. If there's no problem, they don't have a need to find a solution. I also like to advocate for testing at an early age, having yearly lab tests, educating yourself on what are the required lab tests. Because if you go to the doctor, they're going to give you some standard panel. And it's so sad. You go to the public health services over here, the standard lipid panel only includes total cholesterol and triglycerides. That's the standard panel. And that's enough to start somebody on statins on the public health services over here in Mexico. And it's so sad because they rely on fasting glucose. They only do A1Cs on people who already have diabetes. They don't measure insulin. They don't even care about it.
Wow.
So doing the right tests right from the beginning, some inflammatory markers, CRP among others. There's one specific test that is not available in Mexico, but it's available in the US. It's called CIMT, Correlative Intimate Media Thickness Test. Quick ultrasound on your neck, takes a few minutes, and it can tell you if you're building some amount of plaque. And studies have shown that if you have plaque on your neck, you're very likely having plaque on your heart. You do that at your as earliest age as possible to have a baseline. I did mine like a year ago. No plaque so far, and I want to keep it that way. So I'm going to keep testing. So at the moment I start seeing plaque, I know, okay, there's something I'm doing wrong. There's another test that has some limitations, but still is a good baseline, I believe, and that's the calcium score. You get a CT scan of your chest, and it will tell you how much calcified plaque you have on your heart. My calcium score at 34 years old is 0. And I want to keep it that way, because anytime you're building some calcium, it means, okay, that calcified plaque started as soft plaque. And you need to make sure you're doing the right type of lifestyle so that soft plaque doesn't rupture. Calcium score won't tell you directly if you have soft plaque, but that's what we have available over here in Mexico. There are no CIMTs available in Mexico as far as I know. But
Not
calcium
yet.
score is a good start for a motivation. Like if you're 35 years old, you get a calcium score and it's positive, come on, you have a problem. You might not be feeling anything, but you have plaque on your heart. That means you can have a heart attack. Where? Maybe in a couple of years. We don't know for sure, but you have a problem. And sometimes that's the thing that young people don't realize, that we do have a problem. And some of them might be on denial, as I was a few years ago, dragging our feet, trying not to know. If I don't see it, it's not happening, until you make the decision and say, okay, yeah, I recognize I have a problem. I got to do something about it.
Take control, learn, and get some early testing, but make the changes. But learn the changes are more simple than you ever imagined. So, Dr. Vega, thank you so much for being with us today, and I look forward to talking to Dr. Brewer and getting a chance to meet with you guys at some point physically. And because I think that's, so much is important, so much in this is important to share with our medical community, that there's a different way to approach health